Hello, everyone. This is Ana Pacheco, 101 Santa Fe, and my guest today is Yvette Arellanes, and she is going to tell us about real estate in Mora and San Miguel counties. Yvette, do I have your permission to record this interview?
Sure.
Oh, good. So first of all, I know you've been super busy. It was hard for us to connect on this interview. Tell me right now what is going on, mid-January 2021 in terms of real estate in both San Miguel and Mora.
We're busy. We've been unbelievably busy since right around March and April. Phone calls galore, leads through Zillow and Realtor.com and Trulia, all the big companies. We're just busy, I think if anything, the pandemic has brought a new awareness to people that want to live in rural areas, especially if they can work from home. If a person can work from home now, they don't have to be in a place where their business is located or the business that they work for is located. They can be pretty much wherever they want to be now because people are working virtually.
Right. So let me ask you, because I know once you get out of the bigger cities, internet's kind of shaky. Who are the carriers that accommodate both Mora and San Miguel so that people can work remotely and they definitely have the assurance of good Wi-Fi service?
Well, and that's a little tricky. There's a number of different carriers. I myself, me and my husband are moving to, because my husband just retired, and we're moving out to Cañoncito de Manuelitas, which is in between Mora and Las Vegas, in the Sapeo area. So we're going to use Desert Gate Internet. They're a local internet provider in and around San Miguel County. I don't know how far off they go. I don't know about Mora. I don't know about Guadalupe County, but they're in this area. And out of everybody that I questioned that lives in and around our little valley, they told me if you can get with them, they're the best one to use. So I sent them our GPS coordinates. They looked around to see where was another customer, and it looks like we've got a really good chance of getting that done. I still need to do the paperwork and take the application down there and get all that done, but it makes me feel good that I'm going to be able to use a local provider with local people that know our area and that I can actually go in and talk to, because if you've tried to do anything lately, it's a nightmare.
Right.
So
there are cell phone towers out there, so the people next to you already have access to it, and that's why you'll be able to hook on, or is it done through satellite?
I'm not really sure what they have, but it's not, I won't have cell phone service. So that's a big issue for me, because obviously my cell phone is my source of work, so that's going to be a big issue for me. I mean, I'll live out there, and I've got an iPhone, so the iPhone will be able to, I'll be able to get messages through through other iPhone users, but then I had to get a landline, which I haven't had a landline in years. So I'm going back to a landline, which I'm not exactly crazy about, but I'm going to see if I can forward my cell phone to the landline so I can still get some of these calls from people that are going to call me on my cell phone. So it's definitely been a challenge trying to, get Dish Network hooked up and internet hooked up, and I got to change my mail. It's a process, but we're gonna live in the country, so here we go.
Oh, so good. And then for the property that you're going to be living on, did you have to dig your own well?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And what was the process with that? Because I've heard from other people in northern New Mexico that there aren't a lot of well diggers in up north, and so it's a lengthy process. Did you have problems getting a well done?
Well, we put in for our well about a year in advance. So ours was about a year in advance. Because this was coming up. It was a planned type of situation. So we put in for a year in advance. I just talked to the well driller, one of the local well drillers, and he says right now it's 18 months to 2 years out.
That's what I've heard for up north. That's correct. And so tell me, how big of land, how large is your piece of land that you'll be living on now?
It's about 3 to 5 acres. I'm not exactly sure. Me and my husband, this was his home before we got married, but we've lived in town a number of years because we had kids still going to school, and we had our place out at the ranch. We had it rented, all this time period. So now we're doing renovations to it because now it's going to be our home. So, but we did have to dig a new well because our old well had real bad hard water. So we had to dig a new well, and those are not cheap. And it's kind of the luck of the draw, unless you have somebody who can witch the well for you. And we did have somebody come and witch this well for us.
And what does witch the well mean?
I'm not really sure if it's an old wives thing or a northern New Mexico thing, or just I'm not really sure if it's a scientific process or what it is. But at this point, because we're on well number 3 actually. So well number 1 wasn't deep enough. So and you can't dig down in the same hole from what I understand. Well number 2 was really bad hard water that put a lot of mineral deposits and stuff in our lines. So we had to do some new water lines and do some new toilets and new sinks and supply lines because it was really awful water. So there's a local man up in our area that does this, and he goes out there and he tells you where is the best possible chance of hitting a good well. Now, it may not have good water, because there's a difference between a good well and good water. And he basically came out, looked at the terrain, looked at where, which vegetation is growing. The way I understood it, I wasn't there myself, but looked at which vegetation is growing, and looked at the land, the way the land slopes, where the water would kind of drain into whichever area. And that's what we did. And we got a good well.
And how deep did you have to go?
350 feet.
Is that pretty deep? Sounds like it.
It's pretty deep. It's probably deeper than what some of the older wells were the depth of older wells, because obviously we're in a drought. Our rain and snowfall is not what it used to be as it was back in the day. So you have to go a little bit deeper to get, not only, we didn't have to go that deep. I think we hit water at 200. We went down another 150 so that we would have some storage in that well casing.
Okay. And just what would an approximation of like the well that you just had completed, what would something like that cost somebody who might be watching this?
That well probably ran us about $13,000. We did a solar panel, so we didn't have to get an extra meter from San Miguel. We did a solar panel that runs the pump, so it's on solar. The pump puts the water into a 3,000 gallon storage tank, and that tank ran us about $3,000. And from the storage tank, we have it's got an opening where it aerates, the water can kind of aerate, and then it gravity feeds from the tank into the house. We do have a little bit of an eggy smell to the water, so that's why when it sits in the tank, it can kind of aerate, and that smell can kind of go away. You don't hardly smell it that much in the house, which is great, but it's not really hard water. It's pretty good water. I don't know.
So it's drinkable. Do you drink the water?
Yes,
okay.
I do drink.
And I'm not sure, but what hard water, the minerals are so hard in it that it doesn't go through the pipes, or what is the problem with hard water?
What it does is it's kind of like Carlsbad Caverns. Carlsbad Caverns has those stalactites and stalagmites that grow. Those are minerals. I believe they're minerals that grow and stick together and grow. That was kind of the same thing that was happening inside our toilets. You'd see the minerals that were starting to grow, rocks to grow.
Okay.
It was pretty bad. We had to replace all our toilets. We had to replace a lot of supply lines. Our shower, because it was a white surround. It was orange because of iron. So there's just a lot of minerals. And unfortunately, we have a great, beautiful view because we're up on a cliff, but we're also on a rock. So of course we got water, but it was water that ran like through a rock, I guess. I'm not really sure.
Well, it sounds ideal. So you were saying that it's between 3 and 5 acres. Would that be the like normal size of these rural lots that may be sold right now in your area?
Probably not. If I had more 3 to 5 acres, I could sell them all day long. That's unfortunately in Mora County, they have a moratorium or a restriction on subdividing property. I think you could only do it within 3 to 5 years or something like that. So if you had 20 acres, you could only you could subdivide it now, and then you couldn't do it again for another, I think, 3 to 5 years, something like that. They kind of limit the growth, if that makes any sense. You know, they don't, I think, I'm going to be honest, I think a lot of people in northern New Mexico like northern New Mexico to be rural.
Right.
They don't want, and I don't know if they don't want or they, and then, I mean, San Miguel County has, I mean, and Las Vegas has water issues. So, you know, we can't turn into another Rio Rancho or Santa Fe because, you know, we have some water issues here and stuff. And, I mean, we like it rural, you know, that's why we're here, I guess. But I don't see us, I mean, even though there's a lot of people coming in and buying property, there's no 3 to 5 acre subdivisions in this area. So,
And if there were, I mean, like what would be the average cost of say 5 acres?
5 acres in Mora, I just recently put under contract and it's about 50,000.
Okay. And then, so it's about 1,200 an acre or 1,100, 11,000 an acre. I'm sorry?
About 10, yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
anywhere between 5 to 10, depending on the land, depending on the terrain, is probably what the smaller lots are running for. Now, if you had a larger, like a 60-acre tract, that could be, you know, something different. It just depends. And then it also depends on, you know, if you've got meadow, if you've got some mountains, how narrow or how square, rectangular it is. It just, you know, it just kind of depends, you know.
And is a lot of that land in Mora, is it owned by individuals or does it like butt against BLM country or, you know, government properties, or what's the availability?
All of the above.
Okay.
Mora has national forest property way up in the mountain. They've got big ranches out there, you know, so it could, I mean, you could butt up to a big ranch, and then you could also, if you're way up in the high country, you could, you know, butt up to the national forest. And then there's probably private owners on each side. And some of them are family, some of them were larger family properties that they split it up between brothers and sisters. So your brothers and sisters could be next, I mean, brothers and sisters could be next to the seller, and then the buyer is going to have to deal with now their brothers and sisters. It just all depends. There is no subdivisions like there in the bigger cities. You know, there's just.
And so I remember growing up here when I was little, we used to go, my cousin was married to a man up there from Hualupita. Is that like a major little area in Mora? Would that be like the town or?
Mora would be the town. I guess in urban terminology, Hualupita is like a subdivision of Mora, if that makes any sense. I think there's a church and a post office in that area. The next closest municipality would probably be Angel Fire, and that's traveling north. Traveling south would be Mora.
So in Mora, would there be not just rural, but would there be like neighborhoods where like people could just buy a house on a block someplace? Like
there's no blocks.
So it's all rural. Mora is
all rural.
Okay. Okay, and then you also sell real estate in San Miguel County, and the city there would be Las Vegas, correct?
That would be your major metropolitan, yeah. If you
okay, and so what would what is the like the market there in Las Vegas right now?
It's active as well, very active.
And what would the median price of a home in Las Vegas be?
I would say about 175 to 185.
Okay, and would that be for one of those cool old Victorian houses or an adobe house or a
No,
tract
no, no.
home?
About your tract homes are going to run you between 125 to 145. Um, depend on your adobe houses, how big, how small. Your old Victorian houses, the larger Victorian houses are in your $300,000 price range, 275, something like that.
And I would assume that some of those older Victorian houses, they would need a lot of renovation. I mean, are there a lot of like houses that are just ready to go, or would you have to purchase it and then maybe put another 75,000 and a lot of hard work into it?
No, some of them have been bought, restored, and are fully restored. And some you have to do that work. Yeah.
Okay, but so like for the fully restored, would that be in the $300,000 range?
350 to 375, right around there. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And so are you seeing, are there, in terms of inventory, are there a lot of old Victorian houses available or more adobe tract homes? What are you seeing in Las Vegas?
Right now, we don't have a lot of things on the market at all because everything good price, everything decently priced, and everything that is ready to go has been selling. I mean, we're incredibly blessed and very busy. The drawback is we don't have inventory right now, you know.
Okay, okay.
And I hear from my realtor friends in Santa Fe that they have the same issue. The inventory is really low. I've seen some of my friends even ask on Facebook, like, if you're interested in selling your house, now's the time, you know, because it is definitely a seller's market.
Right. No, I'm seeing that. Well, I'm interviewing realtors all over the state, and every county is saying the exact same thing, that inventory is low. But you know what I'm thinking is hopefully that, you know, once these pandemic restrictions ease up, more people are vaccinated, that maybe people will start. I think a lot of people might have their lives on hold right now. It's like, well, I don't want to sell the house and move next to the grandchildren in Arizona. I think everybody's just kind of on hold until we get through this pandemic, and I think things will start to ease up. That's what I'm thinking.
I think it will, but I think and I don't know, I could be wrong. I think as companies realize that they're saving money by not having their employees in the big corporate buildings or whatever buildings they occupy, they're probably saving money. I mean, think about it. They're saving on taxes if they own the building. They're saving on janitorial services, repairs and maintenance, security services, all the different things that some of these companies are saving money on. And people can work from home, and if they're getting just as much or more productivity because people aren't visiting around the water cooler, I don't know if they're going to go back. You know, I wonder if they're going to go back to occupying a building because of the cost saving.
Right. I think that is actually the trend. So we're getting close to the end of the interview. So, but since you have just gone through this whole renovation of your husband's family home, what would be your like advice for somebody who may be looking at rural properties? Like what are the mistakes you might have made that they could avoid, or what should they be looking at, or what should they prepare for if they're really dead set on living in a rural property in northern New Mexico?
Well, if you're just going to buy vacant land, to make sure that you get your well in first, because if you don't do your well first, a house doesn't matter. You know, you have to get your infrastructure in first. Water is huge. You know, we needed to dig another well, and I told him we're going to dig our well first, and if we don't get good water, we're not moving out there. That's all there is to it. You know, so we did all our infrastructure first. And then what we did, and this was not in preparation for a pandemic, it was just in preparation financially, and, you know, because we wanted to buy as much supplies as we could before he actually retired, is we bought one of those Conex storage units, and we just started buying our flooring, bought our refrigerator, bought our stove. We bought everything we could, and we put it in the storage container. And then we had most of our stuff ready to go, you know, to do the renovation. We noticed that as we were working on the house, we were running into shortages of supplies because that's when the pandemic hit. We couldn't get 2x4s, we couldn't get a dishwasher, just doors, just different things for a while. And I don't know if it was because of the pandemic or just because everybody and their mother was also renovating and doing housework, because it seems like even though some of the other businesses were closed, the hardware stores were, they were rocking and rolling. Every time we went to the hardware store, there was tons of people, you know, everywhere.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, listen, you know, Yvette, thank you. You've been extremely informative. I didn't know about the whole solar panel that can provide energy for a well. That's a new one for me. Every time I do these interviews, I learn something. So I do thank you. And we're going to go ahead and put this interview on the website for both Mora and San Miguel County. And thank you again for your time, and good luck with your new home.
Thank you. I work for Home and Land Professionals out of Las Vegas, New Mexico. So I'm in the Mora, Las Vegas, San Miguel, and a little bit in Guadalupe area as well.
Well, good. We'll put all your contact details along with this interview on SantaFe101.com. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.